This week's episode is brought to you by Casper. Casper is a sleep brand that makes expertly designed products to help you get your best rest, one night at a time. You spend 1/3 of your life sleeping, so you should be comfortable. The experts at Casper work tirelessly to make a quality sleep surface that cradles your natural geometry in all the right places. The original Casper mattress combines multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface with the right amounts of both sink and bounce. Casper also now offers 4 other mattresses: the Wave, the Essential, the Hybrid Casper, and the Hybrid Wave, all at affordable prices because Casper cuts out the middlemen and sells directly to you. There's free shipping and returns in the United States and Canada, and you can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free Sleep On It trial. The Duncan family still heartily endorses the Casper mattress and pillows. Many great naps and great night sleeps were taken on the Casper. They were just comfortable mattresses that helped us all sleep better. So the deal is you get $50 towards a select mattress by visiting casper.com/revolutions and using revolutions at checkout. That again, get $50 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/revolutions and using revolutions at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Hello, and welcome to Revolutions. Episode 10.15, The Tsar Must Die. Before we get going this week, I want to remind everybody that I will be at the Sound Education Conference from September the 9th to the 12th. I'll be giving my own talk and then also doing a panel with the history of Byzantium. I also have interviews lined up with great podcasts like The Eastern Border and Pax Britannica, so you'll also get to hear me coming out of multiple other podcasts in the near future, and I'll bump any and all interviews that come out of this. I hope to see you there. So where we left it last time was in the midst of this era of great reform, when the emancipation of the serfs was followed by political and judicial reforms, all under the auspices of the Tsar Liberator. But where we really left things was that the expectations created by this era of great reform would soon be going unmet. Now, Alexander II had loosened censorship a little bit in the lead-up to emancipation, and public discussion of ideas and events were now moderately tolerated, as long as they stayed within certain bounds. This discussion was most gratifyingly embraced by a small but growing segment of the population that was just now being dubbed the intelligentsia, a term I'm sure you're all familiar with that was being coined right now here in Russia in the mid-19th century. The intelligentsia described a group of non-elite, non-noble, or at least lower noble, educated men of society, the lawyers and doctors and businessmen who were beginning to assert their own tastes and preoccupations, ideas and desires into Russian culture. They were now both the creators and audience for books, art, literature, philosophy, poetry, and music, and this was in contrast to the old noble patronage model, where the tastes, preoccupations, ideas, and desires of the aristocracy reigned supreme. The intelligentsia tended to be pretty liberal in its outlook, especially those joining the conversation in this age of great reform. They were keen to improve Russian society, and they lauded the Tsar's good work, but they also didn't want to rock the boat too much. After all, their own property and position might be at stake. There was, however, a more radical faction inside this intelligentsia who wanted more than just liberal reform, who would not cheerlead the great reforms the government was unrolling, but rather criticize them for not going far enough or for not being implemented fully. These radicals, as you can imagine, tended to be younger and more plebeian. They were too young to have really been stamped by the military autocracy of Nicholas I, and they now arrived as energetic teenagers and 20-somethings in the late 1850s and early 1860s, in an environment that encouraged reform and rejuvenation and reappraisal, and, some of them hoped, revolution. These young radicals were a long way from the liberal noble Decembrists. They were also well removed from the now middle-aged and middle-class intellectuals who had gone through the 1830s and 1840s in various semi-secret literary societies who dared to read prescribed books and articles. This new younger set was irreverent, iconoclastic, and ready for action. Their hero was a guy named Nikolai Chernyshevsky. Chernyshevsky was the low-born son of a priest who graduated from seminary and then took a master's degree in literature from St. Petersburg University. He was in his late 20s when the Tsar announced the goal of emancipating the serfs, and was by then already coming into his own as a journalist. He was a student of Western ideas and knew socialist writers like Fourier. He had read and absorbed his exiled countrymen like Yurtsin and Bakunin, but he also moved away from strict philosophy and economics, and also absorbed the rapid advances being made in the natural sciences. We are now in the age of Darwin, so he was less interested in abstract German philosophy and more interested in concrete evolutionary biology. Chernyshevsky wanted to elevate and center the Narod, which we would translate as the people, and serves as a kind of idealized abstraction, not unlike the German Volk. Chernyshevsky synthesized a set of political principles that defined the next generation of social and political battles, Narodniczeństwo, or to westernize it so I don't have to keep trying to pronounce it, Narodism. Chernyshevsky envisioned a kind of agrarian socialism that could spring naturally from the already existent village communes. He was personally and temperamentally a revolutionary, but kept his prose mostly clear of those kinds of suggestions, though he did warn against trusting too much in the Tsar's emancipation scheme. True liberty could never be handed down from above. It would have to be seized from below. Despite being very careful about his published utterances, though, Chernyshevsky was ultimately arrested by the Third Section in 1862, and they convicted him on some trumped-up charges and sentenced him to exile in Siberia. The crazy thing, though, is that while locked up in the St. Peter-St. Paul fortress waiting to be tried, the authorities let Chernyshevsky keep writing, and he produced a novel called What Is to Be Done. Then, even more incredibly, they allowed this novel to be published in 1863. Presumably the censors were hung over that morning and didn't feel like reading it. What Is to Be Done tells the story of a young woman who escapes from an arranged marriage, but it is mostly a vehicle for expressing a semi-utopian vision for the future that was built around communal factories. This new utopian order would help end poverty and break down the old and clearly outmoded political, social, and family structures of the present day. What Is to Be Done was a landmark event for our budding young social and political revolutionaries of the post-emancipation world. If the title, What Is to Be Done, rings a bell, that's because Lenin said he read the book 5 times over a single summer and titled his own famous 1902 pamphlet, What Is to Be Done, as an homage that would have been well known to all his readers. Everyone read Chernyshevsky's What Is to Be Done, and everyone had something to say about it. Dostoevsky ridiculed it. Tolstoy wrote his own nonfiction tract that is often translated into English as What Is to Be Done, which outlined his own Christian pacifist anarchism. But that is the novel's later legacy. Back here in the 1860s, Chernyshevsky himself was exiled to Siberia, and the young